Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to learn about one of the most important building blocks in Python programming, functions. If you've ever written the same code again and again or wanted to organize your logic into reusable parts, then you are going to love Python functions. They allow us to group a set of instructions into a single unit and then use that unit whenever we need it. So instead of writing the same logic multiple times, we write it once inside a function and then just call the function whenever needed. Let's understand what a function really is. In simple words, a function is a named block of code that performs a specific task. You give it a name, you define what it should do, and then you run it by calling its name. For example, you might create a function to greet the user, calculate a square, print today's date, or send an email. These can all be written as separate functions, and every time you need to do that task, you simply call the function name. There are two main types of functions in Python. The first type is built-in functions. These are already provided by Python. You have already used many of them like print, len, input, or type. You didn't create those. Python gave them to you out of the box. The second type is user-defined functions. These are the ones you create using the def keyword. We'll see how to define and use them step by step in the next lesson. Now let's talk about why we use functions. Number one, reusability. You write a block of logic once and reuse it as many times as needed. Number two, cleaner code. Functions help you break your program into smaller, meaningful parts. This makes the code easier to read and understand. Number three, testing and debugging. If something goes wrong, you can test just the function instead of the whole program. And number four, collaboration. If you are working in a team, one person can write one function, another person writes another, and it all fits together. Now let's break down the basic structure of a function in Python. In Python, to define a function, you follow a specific format using the def keyword. Let's break it down step by step. We start with the word def. This is short for define, and it tells Python you are creating a function. Next comes the function name. This should be a meaningful name that describes what the function does. For example, greet, show menu, or calculate area. After the name, we put parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we can add parameters. These are like placeholders for the data we want to pass into the function. Parameters are optional. Then we end the line with a colon. On the next line, we indent using 4 spaces and write the body of the function. This is where we put all the logic we want the function to perform. To run the function, we use its name followed by parentheses. This is called calling the function. Here is a simple example. Def greet open and close brackets colon. Indented line print within double quotes type hello from the function. Then outside the function block, we call the function by writing greet open and close brackets. It's that simple. Now, let's understand how to create functions in Python with step-by-step examples. Open PyCharm, right-click your project folder, choose new and select Python file. Let's name it functions demo. Let's start with the most basic function. We're going to create a function that just prints a welcome message. Let's type def keyword followed by function name greet and then colon, indented line print within brackets within double quotes welcome to Python functions exclamation. Let's understand this. The def keyword tells Python you are about to define a function. Greet is the name of the function. You can name it whatever you like, but it should describe what the function does. Then we add brackets, even though there are no inputs yet, and a colon to begin the function block. Finally, the indented line, that's the body of the function. This block runs when you call the function. So let's call it. Let's type function name greet and followed by parentheses. Let's run the program, and the output is welcome to Python functions. Now here's the fun part. You can call this function as many times as you want and it will work every time. So here, call the greet function 3 times. Run it again and it will print the message 3 times. We only wrote the logic once but reused it multiple times. That's the power of functions. Now let's make this function more flexible. Instead of printing a fixed message, we want to greet different users by name. We'll define a function called greetUser. Let's type def greetUser within brackets name colon. Indented line print within brackets double quotes hello comma space plus sign name. This time we are adding a parameter inside the brackets. A parameter is like a placeholder. It lets the function accept a value. In this case we are saying, hey, pass me a name and I'll use it in the message. Let's call this function. Type greetUser within brackets within double quotes Ramesh. Let's run it. Output hello Ramesh. Now call this greetUser function with different names. GreetUser open parenthesis Raj close parenthesis. GreetUser Salman. Now run the program and you can see the output. Hello Ramesh, hello Raj, hello Salman. We wrote the greeting logic once and now we can use it for anyone. This is how you customize behavior using parameters. Now let's go a step further. Instead of just printing something inside the function, we want the function to calculate something and return the result. Let's create a function that calculates the square of a number. So let's type def keyword followed by function name square. Within brackets, pass the parameter num and then colon. Indented line return keyword followed by num multiply by num. Here we are using the return keyword. It sends the result back to wherever the function was called. Let's call the function and store the result. Type variable result equals call the function square within brackets pass the value 6. Then print within brackets square is colon comma and then pass the variable result. Let's run it. You can see the output. Square is 36. Now calculate the square for 10 and 100. So here type print within brackets call the square function and pass the value 10. Print within brackets call the square function and pass the value 100. Let's run it. This will give 110,000 just like that. This shows that functions can be used in expressions, assigned to variables and reused in many places. Now let's create a Python function that finds the maximum of two numbers. This is a great way to understand how conditional logic and return values work inside functions. We'll start by defining our function. Let's type def get underscore max within a brackets, a comma b and then colon. This line defines a function named getMax that takes two parameters a and b. These are placeholders for the two numbers we want to compare. Next line we type if a greater than b and then colon. We're checking if the value of a is greater than b. If this condition is true, we want to return the value of a. So we write return followed by variable a. Then we move to the else block. Let's type else and followed by a colon, and in the indented line return followed by variable b. This means if a is not greater than b, then return b instead. So the function will always return the larger of the two numbers. Let's now call the function and store the result. Next line max underscore value equals call the function get underscore max within brackets pass 15, 22. Here we are calling the function getMax and passing the values 15 and 22. The result, which is the larger number, will be stored in the variable called max value. Now we want to print the result to the screen. Next line print function within brackets within double quotes type maximum is colon space comma then max underscore value. This line displays the message and the actual value returned by the function. Let's now run the program and see what happens. Output maximum is 22. Since 22 is greater than 15, the function returns 22 and it's printed to the console. You can test it with other numbers too. Try calling getMax with 40 and 30 and run the program. It will return 40. This is a powerful example of how functions can help you write logic once and reuse it with different values. It also shows how return can be used to send back a value from a function, not just print something. Now, let's create one more example that demonstrates calling a function inside a loop. This is a great way to repeat a task like greeting multiple users using just one function. We'll start by defining the function. Let's type def greet underscore user within brackets, type name, then colon. This line defines a function called greetUser, and it takes one parameter, name. This parameter will hold the name of the person we want to greet. Now let's add the print statement inside the function. Indented line, we type print function within brackets within double quotes. Type hello comma space plus name plus another string with an exclamation mark. So this line will greet the user by name, like hello Alice. Let's now create a list of names. We type names equals within a square brackets, double quotes, Alice, comma, double quotes, Bob, comma, double quotes, Charlie. Now we want to loop through each name and call our greeting function. Let's write our loop for keyword followed by variable name, in keyword followed by list names, and then colon. This means for each name in the list called names, do the following block. Indented line, greet underscore user within brackets, pass name. This line calls our function and passes the current name from the loop. The function then prints a greeting for that name. Let's now run the program and see what happens. Here is the output. Hello Alice, hello Bob, hello Charlie. As you can see, the loop called our function 3 times, once for each name. Each time it passed a different name from the list, and our function handled the greeting. This is a powerful example of how functions and loops can work together. The loop handles repetition, the function handles the logic. Together, they make the code clean, efficient, and reusable. You don't have to repeat the print logic again and again. Just call the function inside the loop. Now, in this example, we are going to look at something very useful: functions with default parameter values. This means if you don't pass an argument when calling the function, Python will use a default value instead. Let's say you want to greet someone, but sometimes you might not know their name. Instead of forcing the user to always enter a name, you can set a default name like guest. Let's define our function. We type def greet underscore default within brackets, name equals, within double quotes, guest, then colon. This line defines a function called greetDefault. Inside the parentheses, we are setting a default value for the parameter name. If no name is passed, Python will use guest. Now let's write the print line, indented line, print function within brackets, double quotes, hello comma space plus name. This will greet the user by name or use guest if no name is provided. Now let's call the function 2 times. First we type greet underscore default, open and close brackets. Here we didn't pass any name, so Python will use the default value. Now the second call, greet underscore default within brackets, double quotes, Ravi. This time we are passing the name Ravi, so the function will use that instead of the default. Let's now run the program and see what happens. Here is the output. Hello guest, hello Ravi. As you can see, in the first call, the function used the default value, guest. In the second call, since we provided the name Ravi, the function used that instead. This is super helpful when writing functions that should work, even if some data is missing. It keeps your code more flexible and user-friendly. Let's quickly summarize everything we did. We created simple functions using def. We added parameters to customize behavior. We used return to send values back. We wrote logic to find max and square numbers. We reused functions in loops and passed lists. We learned about default values, so callers don't always have to provide arguments. Functions help you write code once and use it again and again. They make your code modular, reusable, and easier to debug. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.